You shouldn't read my favorite books. Hey everyone, it's Holly, and I have said in the past that I am a big fan of negative reviews. And, well, maybe a big fan is a dramatic term, but I think negative reviews are a good thing. Hello, Murphy Cat. And that is because just because somebody doesn't like something in a book doesn't mean it isn't going to be something that you don't like. And so reading negative and positive reviews is a really good way to figure out what is a big deal in a book. And I am a huge fan of that. It's something I do if I hear about a book and I'm not sure about it. It's also helpful if somebody constantly hypes up a book and you get caught up in the hype and you want to read it. I think negative reviews are a really good thing in situations like that, so you can see if maybe some of the negative things for other people are things that would distract you and not like them. And in that vein, I am here to tell you why you shouldn't read Murphy's trying to steal my lip gloss. Why you shouldn't read 5 of my favorite books. So these are books that I talk or have talked a lot about on my channel, and I want to tell you reasons why I think you might not like them, because while I may love them and these things may work for me, whether it just in this book or in all books, it may not work for you. First is Wallbanger by Alice Clayton, and this is a contemporary romance. And some of the reasons I would say you wouldn't like it is because, one, there is a ton of humor in this book, and there's a ton of like over the top kind of immature humor. It's definitely not highbrow by any stretch of the imagination. Also, this is a very sex heavy book, not necessarily in like how many times characters have sex or graphic sex is described, but in that sex ends up being a huge part of a lot of the interactions and conversations between the characters in this book. It has a lot of very stereotypical traditional characters, especially for the time period like the early 2010s when this was written. Also, it is Twilight fanfiction. Some people don't like that. Next is Addicted to You and the whole Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Stop trying to steal my lip gloss. So this is contemporary new adult / adult romance, and this features highly dysfunctional and highly codependent characters. These characters are incredibly codependent, and I would argue, maybe spoiler, that they never stop really being codependent. It also features 2 addicts. One is a sex addict and one is an alcoholic who revel in their addiction, especially in the beginning. Like, they 100% are throw themselves into their addictions, and they're described in detail. A lot of the complaints I see, I will tell you, is specifically Lily's sex addiction. A lot of people are really bothered by like the things she does to satisfy her addiction, and put off by it. It's also very angsty. Not everybody's likes an angsty book. There's a lot of whining, a lot of self-pity. And if that's something that bothers you, you probably shouldn't read this book. Next is Obsidian, or the whole Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is young adult, kind of upper YA, paranormal. It has aliens. It is definitely cliche of like that Twilight era of books. I think that like around that time you had a ton of books in the same style as Twilight, and Obsidian and the Lux series is definitely one of them. The heroine, Katie, is definitely kind of like a not like other girls type of character. The hero is definitely an arrogant douchebag, and he never really changes. They're uninvolved parents. I know that's something that bothers a lot of people. Also, it strongly features teenagers getting involved in unrealistic situations or having unrealistic power over situations in the overall world. And then there is Goose Girl by Shannon and Hale. This is a YA fantasy, and it is a longer YA fantasy. It's also a little on the slower side. I think especially nowadays, people like their fantasy to be very like go, 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 action-packed. It's not particularly heavy on the romance, which is something that is also very common today. And it's especially not a steamy romance. This is more middle grade style. There's no complex world building or politics, especially in this particular book in the series. And the 5th book is another fantasy one, and that one is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is another YA fantasy. This one is not long. It is short, perhaps on the short side. It's definitely shorter than a lot of YA books that you see today. It has insta-love, and it revolves heavily around the romance. So it's the complete opposite of Goose Girl, but I would say that the story is primarily romance based and not about the larger world. Speaking of, there are no complex world or politics in this one either, because again, it's heavily relying on that romance. Like I said, these are some of my favorite books. A lot of these I have read not just twice, but multiple times. I read them over and over again, and I absolutely love them to death. But they aren't for everyone. And these are just some of the reasons why they wouldn't be for you. Even I don't like some of the things that are in these books. Like, I don't typically like douchey alpha hole heroes, but in Jennifer L. Armentrout books, it works for me. I have no idea why. She just has like a magical power for me. So it's something that I know I can trust her to write, but it's something I would avoid in other books. And I rely on reviews, whether they be positive or negative, to tell me what is in these books so that I can make a good judgment of whether or not this book will be potentially good for me. At the end of the day, reading taste is subjective, it's weird, and it is ever evolving. And I think it's important to remember that. And everyone has something that they like and something that they don't like. If you like something that I don't like, that doesn't mean either of us is wrong. We are just individual people. And one of my favorite phrases, I first heard it in the book community, and I think it is 100% true, and that is, don't yuck my yum. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean you're not allowed to like it in your books. So thank you so much for watching. If you do like any of these books, that's great. Some of them are incredibly popular. I'm not like alone in loving them. And also, if you hate them, that's great too. You are allowed to do that, because that's the world we live in, and Murphy's acting out, so let me go. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.